Hi everybody, Charles here. Welcome to Backroads Living. In today's video we're going to be visiting the soybean crop again, along with the corn and other wheat and barley and grain products such as that. So let's see where all that stuff's going and how we're handling it as a nation. Because according to one of the leading economists, we're not handling it very well, and you and I may be, before the end of this season, we may be out of some of these things. So hang in there and let's get into it and look at it. The first thing here we're going to look at is Mr. Arlen Suderman. He's a leading economist in the United States, works for a large corporation that very, very professional people. They keep their fingers to the heartbeat of the trade of soy and corn and wheat and all these kind of things. And they know what's going on in the country and around the world. It's their job to know that. And on January the 25th, Mr. Suderman tweeted and said that export shipments to date exceed the seasonal pace recorded or needed to hit USDA's target by 388 million bushels, up from 365 million the previous week. And then he followed that tweet up and said, soybean export shipments totaled 72.7 million bushels last week. They need to average just over 15 million the rest of the marketing year to hit USDA's target. I would be nervous if I were a domestic processor / livestock producer. So when we look at those numbers, it said the shipments totaled $72.7 million or million bushels the week before January the 25th. And they need to average just over 15 million the rest of the marketing year. And I'm assuming that means per week. So that was a huge jump in what that should have been. And someone asked him then about what he said, if I were a domestic processor, livestock producer, I would be nervous. And here's what someone said. They said, sir, on a scale from 1 to 10, just how nervous would you be? And his answer was over the top. He said 12. So this man is looking for soy to run short before year's end. And he's looking for things to affect the produce of beef on the hoof animals that the United States grows and produces to sell to the markets, so that you and I can have our hamburgers and our steaks and all those things that we enjoy when we run out to the grocery and run into the meat section. They're fed by grains and fed by foods that are made by soy. And it's looking like soy is going to be hit pretty hard this year. And of course, this fellow said on a scale of 1 to 10, if I was a producer of livestock, he said I would most certainly be very nervous. So let's look at the next thing he said. It says here that 42% of Mato Grosso's soybeans were harvested at this point a year ago. Now let's look at that number. 42% were harvested at this point a year ago. This year, less than 13% were harvested. 38% of Safrana's corn was planted in Mato Grosso at this point last year. This year, only 12%. This guy says so, as in kind of so what. Here's his tweet. It says 42% of Mato Grosso's soybeans were harvested at this point a year ago. His answer is that because of this shortfall of the harvest and this shortfall of the corn that's being planted, he said it means China has to buy more soybeans from us to fill the gap until cheaper Brazilian soybean arrives, and our stocks are already tight. So where does that put us as producers of beef and meat on the hoof? Well, let's look at some articles right here. This one comes from Brownfield AG News for America, It says run-up in corn prices puts pressure on Iowa cow-calf producer. Now, when we sell all of our soy and we get rid of all of our corn to foreign nations such as China and other nations, and there becomes a shortfall on it, then the price of it's going to go extremely high because people are going to need it to feed their cattle. They're going to need it to feed their horses. They're going to need it to feed their chickens, their poultry, and everything else that uses corn. And corn is used for many hundreds of items that we buy off the store shelves. Comes in the form of corn. But let's look at this just a second real quick. It says a cow-calf producer in northeast Iowa figures the difference in feed costs between $4 and $5 corn is about 20%. So they're looking at a 20% increase right there. And he said that for each percentage point corn rises, it reduces the calf price by 0.185 cents. You take that times 20 and it's significant. And then beyond that, when corn is high, more hay acre gets taken out of production and put into corn. So we can utilize more hay if corn is high and silage is high, but that drives the price of hay higher. So it doesn't matter which way you go here, it's going to jack the price up on the feed. That's the bottom line here. The cost to feed the cattle, the cost to feed the poultry, the cost to feed the animals on the hoof is going up, and it's going to continue to go up, just like groceries are going up, and they're going to continue to go up. He tells Brownfield there aren't many ways to mitigate higher feed costs, but cover crops might be a part of the solution. And he said a lot of people planted cover crops and terminated them before they go to bean or corn again. I think we're going to let those cover crops survive longer and harvest them if we're able to, those of us feeding cattle. They've got to try to figure out a way to offset these higher prices in corn, because they can't continue to do this as the corn prices go up. And like he said, if they go to hay, if they grow more acreage in corn and let the hay go, then the hay prices are going to go up. And he says as corn prices climb, more farmers are dumping feeder cattle, driving that market lower. Here's what happens. They have to get rid of their cattle. If they can't afford to feed the feeder cattle and feeder calves, then they've got to get rid of them. They're not going to have them around much longer. And when we start dumping all the meat on the hoof, then where's the supermarkets going to get any meat from? If farmers are not growing, beef, where are they going to get their meat from? And that goes back to you and I. If supermarkets can't get it, where are we going to get it from? I would encourage anyone out there that owns a small farm or owns a place that you could raise a steer or two, even a milk cow, something like that. If you could raise your own beef, raise your own goats, raise your own sheep, raise your own poultry, raise any kind of meat that you can raise, rabbits, whatever it might be, I would encourage you to take heart and do this, to start becoming more self-sufficient in the meat line, as well as what we've talked about our pantries for so long. And we've talked about keeping our pantries full for a long time and getting them built up for a good reserve. But I think we need to concentrate also on stocking up on meats, on the hoof stuff. Have chickens for fresh eggs, have chickens for fresh meat, have cattle for fresh milk. If you can have a cow, have a steer for fresh meat, goats, whatever it may be. Because the time's coming, it looks like, from what's going on with our exports, the way this country is handling exports and the way this administration is going. Unless something changes very soon, we're going to find ourselves in dire need of food across America. There's going to be many people put into starvation as this thing progresses. So let's look back here at some more of these tweets that this economist had put out and see what he says here. He said, now this was on January the 26th, This is January the 26th. He said, Reuters reports that China bought roughly 200 million. Now listen to these numbers. 200 million gallons of U.S. ethanol for delivery in the first half of this year. Now ethanol is made from corn product. Think about that. They're already exporting corn. We already had that storm back last year, that derecho that destroyed nearly 10 to 11 million acres of corn. We were already going to have a shortfall because of that, many economists predicted. And now we're shipping out the ethanol that's being made from that corn to China. 200 million gallons. And then the next tweet above that, he said China bought 53.5 million bushels of corn in the past 24 hours. And this was on January the 26th. 53.5 million bushels of U.S. corn in the past 24 hours, while unknown destinations bought another 4 million bushels. That's 57.5 million bushels in 24 hours sold to foreign countries. What are Americans going to do for corn? What are our farmers going to do for feed? How are they going to take care of their cattle and take care of their livestock? We'll read another one right here. The USDA announced, now this is on the 28th, just 2 days later. The USDA announced sales of 80.3 million bushels of corn to China on Tuesday and Wednesday. Today it added another 66.9 million bushels to China, along with 8.4 million to unknown destinations. Other buyers are now getting nervous. Well, I wonder why. Could it be because China's buying up all the corn and all the soy and all the wheat from every country that it can? They're going to drain every country around them of food if they possibly can, because they have had such a shortfall themselves. And it really is time that countries start looking out for themselves. So this was on the 28th. And now we're going to look at another article right here. Let's look and see what the poultry world here said about Argentina. It said Argentina Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries has limited corn exports to 30,000 tons per day between January the 1st and March 2021. Why did they do that? They said this measure aims to prevent natural shortages. They've limited their exports in order to keep enough corn and wheat and barley and all these things and livestock and all this stuff. They've limited their exports so they could keep enough food in their own country to feed their own people. Does that not make sense? Well, I would think so. And here's another one about Russia right here, December the 29th of 2020. Let's look right down here just a second. It said earlier this year, Russia introduced export limits for certain grains, including wheat, rye, barley, and corn for the remainder of the marketing year, which ended June the 30th. And the step was aimed to do what? Protect domestic supply. To protect domestic supply. They wanted to keep enough food in their own country to feed their own people. Well, let's go back to the tweets. Let's see where we're at here. We were on the 28th. So let's move on to here. On the 28th also, it said if you thought China seems to be buying a lot of corn this week, it's not just a lot. Apparently, it's a new record. Big buys turn historic as China's sales shatter export records. We need to think about this when we talk about gardening, when we talk about self-preservation, when we talk about taking care of ourselves and not being so dependent on the government. Because apparently this government really doesn't care if it sells out of corn and soy and puts everybody on the map out of food. If we can deplete the corn and soy, then we're most certainly going to put the farmers out of business. They cannot feed their stock without corn and soy. And if the prices continue to go up as they are, and they're raising every day, they will no longer be able to afford to purchase food to feed these animals with. They'll either have to give them away or put them down. They won't make it to the market either way, and if they don't make it to the market, then they won't make it to your table, nor will they make it to mine. Again, that's why it's so important for us to concentrate on what's going on in our country right now and understand that if we don't become more self-sufficient, we're going to go hungry. So keep this in mind. It says China is making big purchases of U.S. corn, but those purchases may be more political than fundamental based. So Arlen explains in the link below. If you wanted to go read that link, you could. I'll give you his Twitter link here that you can go over to Twitter and scroll down through there and find these tweets. And then when we go over here to the last tweet I want to share with you, it says China has roughly 700 million bushels of unshipped U.S. corn on the books currently. It will change the balance sheet dramatically if it ships it. It will kill the balance sheet if it cancels. And in between would be if it rolled a portion into next year, as it often does. And then he followed up that tweet and said China's big corn purchase announcements come in the same week it escalates things with Taiwan by flying fighter jets and bombers through its airspace, stating Taiwan independence means war. Both events come in the first week of the new president in the White House. So what we're looking at here is partly political and partly food preservation and life preservation, because China, as we know, has more people per square mile than any nation in the world, and they've got to feed their people. And to do that, they're gathering up all the corn, all the soy, all the wheat, rye, barley that they can from every country across the nation and across the world. We have a global food shortage already that has been going on for the past year, since 2020. It has been documented time and again. There has been article after article about it. We have a documented price rise every month for the last several months, and there is no sign of that slowing down. The prices are going to continue to go up as the food deplenishes, as the food goes away. The prices are going to get higher as more corn is shipped out of here. The items that are made by corn, the ethanol, everything. The next time you go to the grocery, look on your products that you purchase and see what all is made by corn. We did a video a month or so back about corn and the shortage on corn and the products that it affects. Go back and watch that video on our YouTube channel about everything how many items are made with corn in it. What depends on corn for us to survive? Corn is in multiple, tons of things is made with corn. So, as corn goes higher, so will all your products that you buy off the shelf, from beauty products to food products to all kinds of stuff. Keep that in mind, and it looks like that our country's not going to slow down on its exports. There's been no announcements of that I've heard or seen. If anything, it looks like it's picking up month by month, that the exports are getting more and more and more. And when that happens, then you and I are going to have to be self-sufficient. So folks, thank you for stopping by today. If you enjoy our videos, be sure to subscribe to our channel, like the video, click that bell icon when it appears, and you'll be notified of our uploads as we upload them. Don't forget that to share the link with all your friends and social media friends, and anywhere you can share it online. Share this link that this article can get out to people, and they can start to realize just what kind of condition that the United States is in and heading into, even worse if things don't change. So again, thank you all. God bless you all. Don't forget to keep prepping and keep praying, and until then, we'll see you all in the next video.